Hey, everybody. Welcome to Off the Wall. My name's Mike.
And I'm Sol.
And I'm Bogz.
And Amber Heard has given her first interview since the trial came to a close in the trial of Johnny Depp v. Amber Heard and Amber Heard v. Johnny Depp, because there were two lawsuits going on at the same time. Anyway, she's given her first interview since the verdict came down, and we thought we would take a moment to watch it, see what she has to say, see how her demeanor has changed, how her stance has changed, if it has, and just kind of seeing where she's at. This is from NBC News doing the interview, and we're gonna watch and react to this, and just kind of get a feel for where Amber Heard is at amidst all of this.
Let's do it.
More than a week since the verdict. As you sit here with me now, has it sunk in?
She's at it again already. She's at it again.
Difficult.
Honestly, I find it actually hilarious.
That breathing.
I probably should not laugh at her, but
do you stand by
I just find it hilarious.
Your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp?
It was already, she'd been asked one question, and it was, okay, get into character. It was such a get into character moment. It was.
It's like she's such a bad actor, but. Like I know, like she's a good actor. Like really, if you think about it, to be in Aquaman or whatever. But like to play, she's almost like it's like it's fiction. It's like she's playing reality TV, and you can see like the fake mannerisms that she's putting on. It's absolute. I find it hilarious. I know they're talking about serious things sometimes, and and abuse and drug addiction, and and lying and things like that. But I just find it hilarious, her hairstyles and her mannerisms and her body language. For me, it's pure entertainment. So to watch her still double down and keep doing it, it will never not be funny to me. And I think his accusers, Depp's lawyers often said she never really owned up to anything. She never admitted any guilt, really. So I'll be interested to hear if she does say, oh, okay, I could have done this differently, or I do apologize about this. I know she won't, but it'll just be funny to hear what she says, different to what she said on trial. But sorry,
and both her and her lawyers are funny, and even her lawyers didn't admit to guilt afterwards when they were doing the interviews and stuff. So already that breathe in, let's start.
Yeah,
it's so funny. Funny.
As someone who's been acting since high school and has acted and directed actors, I have seen these exact mannerisms from bad actors all my entire life, and I feel like it's a testament to her ability as an actor that she could put on a more believable persona in any of this. If you were a better actor, we might have believed you. But if anything, it's a testament to how bad of an actor you are that you can't even sell this.
It's funny that she obviously has talent, but she just doesn't show it, kind of thing, in real life. It's really a funny situation just to go over in, and this is her real life self, where it's just totally not believable. When she acts in movies, she's okay. So it's just so, I don't know. It's a funny predicament to be in. And why can't she cry? That's another thing.
Media like wildfire.
It's
her acting coach said that she couldn't cry when she was acting.
When she's acting, yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
It's the one on the left. It's that face. It's that clip. It's that face that keeps popping up.
Clips spreading across social media.
The teeth. It's the teeth and the pursing of the lips. It's that's when you don't, as an actor, when you don't know how to cry on command. That's when you see a lot of actors overdoing the mouth movements and the pursing of the lips. Because, when people cry, when they cry hard, their lips tend to swell a little bit because their face gets puffy and they purse their lips a little bit. It's that is such overselling, like you would see on a stage play, because when you're on a stage play, you have to kind of overdo it because it's big and you're at a distance, and it's what it feels like. It feels like a show.
I think vast majority of this trial was played out on social media. I think that this trial is an example of that gone haywire, gone amok. And
your team was the one who brought social media into the courtroom, though.
Of course it was on social media.
So what? It was on social media. Yeah, it was also in court as well. So.
Yeah, like I hate that her and her lawyers are saying that the jurors did not take their oath seriously because they took an oath to not be on social media. Yeah. And then also it was her side who brought social media into the court. The lawyer I was watching she goes, no way would Johnny Depp's lawyers been able to bring in #AmberTurd or #I just don't like you, Amber, into the courtroom. It had to be her side, and her side brought that in. And then the jury got to hear what the public thinks of her.
Well, that happened throughout the entire trial. There were things that Johnny Depp's lawyers were told they could not introduce, like Kate Moss. They were told you cannot call her as a witness. That's I forget the term for it, but basically like it's not related enough. It's not a close enough situation where you could bring it in. But it wasn't until Amber Heard name dropped Kate Moss on the stand that we have that clip of his lawyers turning and looking at each other with big smiles like, oh, now we can. She brought her up on the record. Now we can. And that was one of the biggest sandbags to their defense, was when Kate Moss came in for a whopping minute and a half. Hi, who are you? Kate Moss. How do you know Johnny? We used to date. Did he push you down the stairs? No. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, Kate Moss, no cross was what it became on the internet.
It's just, wow. We're a minute into this video.
Every single day I passed for 3, 4, sometimes 6 blocks, city blocks lined with people holding signs saying burn the witch, death to
most of the signs that I saw were "I believe you, Johnny."
Yeah. Do I think that those signs existed? Yeah. Do I think it's okay to wish death on somebody? No. Don't do that. But
yeah, I think it's like she probably saw one sign that was just like is exaggerating on, because if you really do look at the crowds and the footage, like the footage is like "I believe you, Johnny," or "I stand with Johnny," or kind of like they're all towards Johnny Depp and not really towards her. Not saying that there probably wasn't, because there probably were, but it was probably a small minority of the crowd, and she's like playing it up as if it was the whole crowd.
Yeah, and she needs to ask herself, and her team needs to ask herself, why were they doing that? Obviously, there's no excuse, for holding signs with personal abuse, but you're giving them reasons to, like, the stuff that you're putting out there, your own evidence and your own witnesses were the ones that took you down, really, like the videotapes or the audio tapes, what you brought in as evidence, and they were complete lies. So you're kind of surprised at people being angry with you. Why? Like, this is a consequence of some of the stuff you brought in, how you behaved in court, just the lies and overall conduct that she had. And she kind of brought it upon herself, unfortunately. And the way they keep doubling down, and they're still adamant everyone's lying, and everyone's and it was
everyone
all against
but me is lying.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Saw just a courtroom packed full of Captain Jack Sparrow fans.
How does she know? How do you know if they're Captain Jack Sparrow fans? I'm sure they're just there watching the trial. No,
there were people there, pirates. I will say there were people, not
but everyone,
not in the courtroom.
Does she do a courtroom when they come in?
Yeah, in the courtroom, most people were nicely dressed, and then there was like a few times where the judge had to be like, "Everyone, calm down," in the gallery. But most of the time, they have to be quiet. Like, you were the peanut gallery. Shut the fuck up when you come into this courtroom. You can't say anything. And so from that perspective, unless you're getting a vibe, like, you can't really fully know, like, that person's for Johnny or that person's from Amber, because there's no signs. There's no dress up. There's no talking.
Typically it's kind of like a wedding. You sit on the side of the person that you're there to support. But you've got to figure, if someone's a fan of Johnny Depp, to some extent, they're a Jack Sparrow fan. Like, that's,
I mean, maybe, but I didn't personally see many of them in the court, as she's saying.
This was the most humiliating and horrible thing I've ever been through. I have never felt,
I would assume that's true,
more removed from my own humanity. I felt less than human.
Let's go back to the day of the verdict. Were you feeling confident?
I would say that, though, that is true. Like she probably did feel less than human and felt humiliated. Like I would assume that that's a true and genuine feeling of being in that courtroom.
I go two different ways on it. One, I mean, yeah, going through that in any aspect has got to be very, it brings down your walls. It brings down any defenses you have. You are very much on display, but she's the one who kickstarted all this by leaking all that stuff to TMZ to begin with. So it's like, if you feel exposed, like for lack of a better phrase, you exposed yourself. Like,
she probably didn't think it was going to go down this route. Like you heard in the video, like tell the world, Johnny, tell them and see who believes you kind of thing. I think she assumed, and you know what they say about people who assume, but she assumed that it wasn't going to go down this route. And I'm sure like being in the courtroom, she probably did feel, I would say that was probably the one genuine thing that I've heard from her.
I think she was more embarrassed and humiliated that she was like, oh, wow, I am going to lose hard.
Heard won just one of 3 claims in her countersuit against her ex-husband.
That's the thing I think that is like, okay, you can sit here and say social media influenced them in all this way. You still won part of your lawsuit.
Yeah.
So, like, if she had won nothing and he had won everything, sure, benefit of the doubt, fine. You still won part of your lawsuit.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me the jury was completely biased against you. It just.
Yeah, she's using it to fit her narrative, right?
Yeah.
This is the reason why I lost, but she's not using it, you know, in terms of the pros for her, just the negatives. So again, just funny way of thinking and behaving.
Also, I have killer pause game because I paused and every time I pause a video on YouTube, it's always somebody mid blink, and it's just fantastic.
There was another trial handled dealt with the same substantive issues that had even more evidence in. In fact, my evidence was largely kept out.
Okay, pretty sure that's a lie.
Okay, right. Stop.
Even more evidence.
Okay, so many things.
I wanna start off with, first off, the UK is a different country than the United States and runs by different laws. Second off, it was a judge, where in the United States is a jury. Third off, it was him versus a tabloid, not him versus her. So there was evidence that he wasn't able to bring in because it was him versus a tabloid, not him versus her. So it's both ways, where there was evidence in this trial that was not in that trial on both parts, because she was not a participant of the trial. She was only there as a witness.
Yeah.
I hate this narrative so much that they're going, because it's a different fucking country.
Yeah. I don't know. Bogz, I don't know
being someone from the UK.
Yeah, you're from the UK. I don't know how much you can speak on that.
No, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not too knowledgeable about court systems and stuff, and the difference between the US ones and the UK ones, but mainly that the fact that there's a jury, and it's just one person doing it. Also, yeah, I mean, obviously Depp had a completely different legal team, and yeah, like she wasn't on trial. Yeah, she wasn't necessarily on trial this time, but the burden of proof was on him to prove, that you defamed him, and other things have come out since then. So if that same proof was then, I don't know, it's just super weird. I would just, to be honest, I didn't watch that trial, the UK trial. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, if there was I would love to know what stuff wasn't added that could be added that was in her favor that wasn't added to this trial, that she believes. So,
and I heard that the UK judge really took into account that he was on drugs and alcohol. And that she gave the divorce money to charity, which we learned in this trial that wasn't true. So the judge took both of those things very heavily into account when he put his when he made his verdict.
Yeah, it's always when you only have to convince one person, it's a lot easier when you try to convince 12. When I was pre-law, they used to always talk about all the time, like, you always want to try to go bench if you can, because you've got a 50-50 shot of winning, So especially, but it's also different depending on if you're a criminal trial or a civil trial. And this is a civil trial, so it's totally different.
For some people, they just were frankly disgusted by the whole thing and don't have much sympathy for either one of you. Can you understand that?
Absolutely. I would not blame the average
She's leaning forward.
This and how it's been covered.
I mean, to me, this is all rehearsed. Like her answers, like her, you know, they're all kind of pre-scripted things. Like this isn't off the cuff. You know, these are my true emotions. You know, this is how I really feel. You know, this is all like, how could they? You know, I understand, or yeah, you know, trying to come across as empathetic, like she did in the trial. You know, it's the same tactics that same, you know, behavior that she's employing, and it's just not working. I mean, it didn't win the people over, you know, the court of the public or whatever. Then it's not going to work now. I mean, I'm sure, you know, I think she's going to get tore apart for this, to be honest.
Although she's much more mild-mannered now, if she probably took this approach in the courtroom, she probably would have been better off.
She might have had a better shot. At least would have been a bit more convincing. Odds are they had time to prep for this interview, and her publicists probably like had a rider with NBC going into this thing of like what they could and what they were and were not going to address.
You know, like her, you know, the little pauses that she does and the funny body language things. Definitely you can spot it a mile off. Amateur, you know, body language experts here, but I mean,
I know who the hell are we?
This is not only about our First Amendment right to speak.
But here's the thing about that.
She keeps going back to this, and that was a big thing in her post verdict statement is why is this suddenly a First Amendment issue?
She's saying that as an American and the First Amendment, she has the right to say whatever she wants. And that's true as long as you're not lying. If you truly believe something and you say it, as an American, you have a right to say it, whether it's you're being an asshole or not about it. But if you are lying, that doesn't count. And then also your rights stop at the point when it's impeding someone else's rights. So if you are lying and defaming another person, that's not protected under the First Amendment because you are now impeding someone else's rights. So it's the same stuff with that we hear a lot of people when they're like, my Second Amendment. And I'm like, well, actually, if you read the Second Amendment, it doesn't really, it says you have the right to bear arms to form a militia. In this, it doesn't really mean what you think it means. So people using like the amendments wrong or what our actual rights are wrong because they don't actually read them, and they're like little itty bitty paragraphs. You can go and read them, and they're really easy to understand. Well,
I took a whole when I was in college. I took an entire class just on the First Amendment, and like the first it's been well established. Yes, you have freedom of speech. Freedom of speech protects you from retaliation from the government.
Yeah.
There are well established legal precedents that like, yes, you are allowed to say what you want, but you can't use your speech to, like you said, infringe on someone else's rights, publicly defame someone. That's why you can't
fire in a crowded building.
Yeah. That's why you can't say bomb on an airplane. Like it's why you can't do that. There's reasons why. So for her to sit here and talk about this whole thing like it's a First Amendment issue, it's like, okay, well, is it a First Amendment issue or is it an abuse issue? Like, what are you actually mad about here? Are you mad that you got in trouble for saying this stuff, or are you mad that your abuser isn't going to get in trouble? What is it? Alleged abuser, excuse me. Which one is it, Amber? Because it seems like now that you've lost on the whole abuse part of it, you're trying to make it seem like it's a big First Amendment issue. I don't understand how anyone can even begin to draw these lines connecting these two dots.
And I guess too, asking like Bogz as someone who's not American, like when you hear people like doing this stuff with like we hear with Second Amendment rights and now they're going off with First Amendment rights, your thoughts on it?
She's talking absolute shit, to be honest, is my thoughts. And the fact that like what is her point exactly? Like she's you know, accused him of sexual abuse, you know, physical abuse, you know, she's been beaten up, etc. Like, who's stopping you from saying that? I don't get it. And obviously his, you know, his lawyers have tried to shut you down, and, you know, social media, the public opinion, you know, try to shut you down because they don't believe you, but no one stopped you from giving your kind of right to speech. I don't actually get her point, unless I'm missing something. But no, I have no clue what she's talking about.
I think the narrative she's trying to push is that she's being persecuted for her speech, and it's no, you're being sued because you, in a public forum, being the press, labeled someone as a violent victimizer when they've never been accused of such a crime. Like, they've never been charged in a court of law. Those charges have never been levied against them. That's you know, it's like saying you're a criminal when they've never been convicted of a crime. And when you look at it in the grand scheme of, like, if somebody was saying stuff like that about me, and then suddenly I'm not able to get a job somewhere, like, oh, well, this person said on Twitter or in this newspaper that you did this. And it's like, I've never been convicted of anything. I've never even been charged with a crime. So because of that, it could then lead to making it harder for him to get work, which obviously it has. So then at that point, that's when it becomes defamation. And that's where his lawsuit came from. So for her to sit here and say, like, oh, this is a freedom of speech issue. Well, no, A, you got to say what you wanted to say, but B, you broke the law in doing so because you know, basically said someone was guilty of a crime they hadn't even been charged with yet.
The First Amendment protects free speech. It doesn't protect lies that amount to defamation.
There you go.
Yes, exactly.
We should just shut up.
Protect you if you know, go into a crowded theater and you scream fire. We get the concept of free speech from the Greeks. My understanding of what that means is not just the freedom.
I'm sorry, this is all scripted. Wait, this is all stuff that her
we
PR
get the
team
concept from the Greeks.
Before. Yeah, why would it? All
right. Wait, let me just throw that in real quick.
I gotta play that back. Where'd she?
Theater, and you scream fire. We get the concept of free speech from the Greeks.
Relevance, objection. Relevance.
Yeah, objection, relevance. I mean, yeah, we got democracy from the Greeks, kinda, but I mean,
probably got acting from them as well, right?
I love you, Bogz. Oh, let's see where she's.
Oh, you just got a snort.
Let's see where she's piloting this plane.
My understanding of what that means is not just the freedom to speak. It's a freedom to speak truth to power.
Where's that in the First Amendment?
No, that's not what that means.
Where's that in the First Amendment?
Oh, wasn't Aquaman from the Greeks as well? Like Poseidon, right? I was like, oh yeah, a lot of filth is from that.
Oh my god! Yeah. This is the greatest day of my life. This is fantastic.
That's not what speaking truth to power is nowhere
well
in
done.
our Constitution.
Well done, Amber. You've definitely done.
Wow,
fantastic.
Called your testimony the performance of a lifetime, and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know.
So you're mad at him because he had a weird acting gig? Really?
Yeah, I guess so.
She defended the man that played Edward Scissorhands. Okay, you played Mara, Princess of Atlantis. Like, what?
What is, yeah.
Objection, relevance again. I mean, who knows?
You say you were responding, but there is evidence.
You're lying, yeah.
In which you acknowledge hitting. There are tapes in which you say, I started the fight.
I know much has been made.
And that's the thing. There was never,
these audio
for me, just objectively watching this trial, there was never an example or any evidence that Depp hit her or caused her any, damage. Obviously, she had them ridiculous photos of no bruises, quite frankly, where she was going to, premieres the next day, or I don't know, these events.
The James Corden show next day too.
Yeah, and there were red carpet events where she's clearly got no kind of marks or bruising or whatever. Or you know, all the audio tapes. You know, there's never an example of him hitting her, or you know, none of her friends or family ever really corroborated that. You know, or the security or any of the staff. Obviously, some of them were paid, you know, Depp employees, but you know, objective people like the LAPD, right? There were some people, or you know, some of the doctors, you know, there weren't, you know, his employees. So none of them ever confirmed any kind of damage or you know, or ever seen anything, you know, in terms of him ever hitting her. But if you flip that around, just the tapes alone were damning enough for her, just the audio tapes. And then, yeah, never mind the witnesses and the evidences and him losing fingers and all this stuff. So, yeah, that's the kind of core of the trial, really. So, yeah, what she's saying here again.
When you look at it, the tapes alone are enough.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't need.
And I think what gets me angry about it is that, like, by the tapes and what you're hearing, like, she's clearly the instigator and then trying to play the victim. And that, for people who have actually like gone through that, like people who have actually gone through domestic abuse or sexual abuse, and then having to see someone cover it up and then say it wasn't me, it was the other person, and probably have had to deal with that in their own life, where like their abuser is lying about it and saying that they didn't do it, and then sometimes even does the opposite and says, no, it was them who did it, kind of thing. So like, for people who have to actually deal with it or have dealt with that in the past, it's just so disheartening to see it, like, from her being, she's doing such a disservice to people who have been victims of this actual abuse.
These audio tapes, they were first leaked online after being edited.
By you.
Sure.
You would hear in those clips are not evidence of what was happening. It was evidence of a negotiation of how to talk about that with your abuser.
But I am looking at a
transcript. We heard them, Amber, you know.
Trust me, we know what's on there.
With your abuser.
But I am looking at a transcript that says, he says, you start physical fights, and you say, I did start a physical fight. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. I mean, this is in black and white. I understand context, but you're testifying and you're just telling me today, I never started a physical fight. And here you are on tape saying you did.
As I testified on the stand about this, is that when your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the resources that, say, you or I do, with the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white. Because it's
like, she looked at a psychology book and is like, I'm going to do all of the things that, like, because what she's saying is not untrue to people who are in those situations, but it just comes across as so untrue for her situation, because there are times when, like, you are in that situation and someone, like, you're like, I'm just going to take the blame for it so that way I don't continue being hit or beaten or any of that kind of things. So then to, like, her obviously saying this, but then the next day is on a red carpet event or on a show with no bruises, no marks. She said she had a split lip, but then the next day, like, is on James Corden looking perfectly fine. Like, come on, Amber.
Yeah, if we didn't see the trial, then that would kind of have merit. But we saw it. We saw, they said, you know, it was in effect, bring your evidence, okay, for this abuse. And your evidence was absolute shit. So...
and to speak to evidence, I mean, this interviewer she came with receipts,
right?
Yeah, I'm glad she put it on a little bit, yeah, because
you said
she can squirm way out of it, you know. I kind of feel that Amber Heard has, you know, I don't want to say something that I'm not qualified in, but I definitely think she has, like, mental health issues, like the constant state of, like, denial, which prevents her ever having any almost redemption at this point. I mean, it's always there, you know, a possibility, but like she can change this around if she really wanted to. But the fact that she keeps doubling down, and I don't know if this advice that she's getting, or yeah, just that the fact that you still are, you know, playing this victim thing. We've seen your evidence, and it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic, and it just so much goes in Depp's favor, and she's still doubling down on it. She said she's seen the media reactions, she's seen the online reactions, she's seen what they said in court, and she's still doubling down on it. I mean, you got to not be too switched on for me. So yeah, I think she needs a bit of help, to be honest.
And Dr. Curry said that too, like on the stand again too. It was only with one interview with her for a few hours, so I think sometimes you need like more than just one interview. But she said, oh, she has personality disorders, so kind of then too that was brought onto the stand about like, no, she doesn't have PTSD, but she does have this.
She strikes me very much as someone. It just gives me compulsive liar vibes. Because she can't separate the truth from what she wants the truth to be anymore. And yeah,
almost like it starts off as a lie, and then you say it so much that you actually believe it.
Yeah, she's high on her own supply.
When I asked his lawyers, why do you think you won? And the answer I got was because she never took responsibility for anything she did in the marriage.
I did do and say horrible, regrettable things throughout my relationship. I behaved in horrible, almost unrecognized.
This is the first time we're hearing her take responsibility, though, a little bit.
I freely and openly and voluntarily talked about what I did. I talked about the horrible language. I talked about being pushed to the extent where I didn't even know the difference between, you know, right and wrong. I will always continue to feel like I was a part of this, like I was the other half of this relationship, because I was, and it was ugly and could be very beautiful. It was very, very toxic.
That was the only time that I felt, like that she was being
what
genuine.
Mistakes though? So I keep hearing this. You know, I made a lot of mistakes, you know, the swearing, but what mistakes are you making? That's what I mean. This is where the sympathy and the redemption and, you know, people's forgiveness can come in, because right now she can't work, right? Apart from these interviews, I mean, she ain't gonna get an acting. What company or studio is going to take a chance on Amber Heard? No, of course, no one is, right? So
Warner Brothers,
for now, anyway. Well, yeah, but that's already in the camera.
Stuff with Ezra.
Yeah,
they're dealing with.
But that's already filmed, so I think that's I'm talking about now moving forward. So yeah, I mean, is there any way back for her? I guess that there's always redemption for everybody, but you know, what stuff are you talking about? What mistakes did you make? You know, what are you talking about in the trial? Are you talking about pre-trial? Talking about during the marriage? Just giving these generic responses. Again, that I'm sure that they've been scripted, just to say, oh, you know, to try and create empathy. It doesn't work for me. I don't believe the kind of same rhetoric that she's been kind of dribbling since the trial. So I need specifics. Like, give us an example. Tell us a thing, but give us something to help us understand what you're sorry about, instead of she just in effect saying I'm sorry and not giving a reason why she's sorry. So it continues to be frustrating, but I believe this is part 1, so I don't know when part 2 is coming out, maybe tomorrow or something. But yeah, it's a 2-part interview, so I'll look forward to that as well.
Juicy.
I guess to play devil's advocate a little bit is that you just went through a 6-week trial where you laid out some of the worst things about your relationship with another human being. She's probably like not ready to be like, this is all the things that I did wrong. So I guess if that ever does come a day where she like, because I agree with you, like we are going to need, when you are truly apologetic about something, for you to be specific about the wrongs that you did. And I think that's something too that we see in when people make apologies, like online apologies, because like the public is mad at them, and we're like, no, we need you to specifically say what you did wrong and acknowledge it for us to think that you are actually being apologetic.
So in those last moments of the interview, one, when she said that it was a toxic relationship, I 100% agree. That relationship was a disaster, like through and through. Number two, it did seem like the fences were coming down a little bit at the end. But to both your points, like, it's all fine and dandy to say I'm sorry on camera. What are you sorry for? And who are you sorry to? Like, don't just throw out a generic I'm sorry that things happened. What are you sorry about? And who exactly are you apologizing to? Because if you're apologizing to Johnny for the things you allegedly did to him, that's one thing. But if you're just sorry you got caught and sorry that it didn't go your way, blow it out your ass. You know, there's a huge difference. So I'm just, I didn't really expect much of a deviation. Seems like she's still just carrying on with, like I said, she's high on her own supply. She's carrying on with this narrative that she's trying to construct, where it's 50% something about First Amendment rights, 50% she doesn't think she did anything wrong.
And part of it, they got it right in the UK and they got it wrong here. So I guess everything's right in the UK, Bogz.
That's what Bogz is the best. That's why.
Yeah, well,
he's the best dressed out of the three of us right now. I mean, look at that shirt.
Work attire. Yeah, but yeah, like, I agree with what you're saying, Mike. They're kind of just throwing sorries out there without giving any context about what you're referring to. Again, you're right. Is it to Johnny, or is it, were you lying about? Is it your own family? Who are you apologizing to? Is it, is it the fans? Is it the people watching? What are you sorry about? You say, I'm sorry about my language. Okay, these are obviously generic scripted responses that your legal team has planned out prior to this. So and she was saying this kind of stuff during the trial. So again, nothing behind, absolutely meaningless. She continues to lie as far as I'm concerned. But it's thoroughly entertaining and I can't wait to see more.
I think she's in too deep though. So like, it's kind of like she can't go like, well, actually I lied a little bit about this or something, because then she's admitting to perjury in the trial. So she's kind of like already in too deep on some of the stuff.
But you know what? If she wants any chance of saving any amount of face, that's what she's got to do. Because all the people that have had comebacks from fallouts in their career are the ones that owned up to their bullshit.
Yeah.
The ones that came out and said, I did this. It was wrong of me. I shouldn't have done that. I apologize. I'm going to work on making a better version of myself. They're the ones that are eventually welcomed back into the court of public.
Robert Downey Jr.
It worked gangbusters for Robert Downey Jr. So that's the kind of thing that's the kind of power move she's going to have to play, because it's very clear that no one's picking up what she's putting down. No one's buying her story, but she keeps putting it out there like it's like she hasn't found her audience yet. You see this a lot of times in stand-up where someone's got this joke that they just love, but it never works. And it's like, well, it hasn't found its right audience yet. Well, sooner or later, it's just you.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, whatever you're selling just isn't what anybody wants. So if she has any chance of salvaging any amount of her career at this point, she's going to need to either come up with some gold star evidence that no one's ever seen before, or she's going to have to just say, okay, I did it. Here's what I did. I shouldn't have done it. I'm going to work on being a better person. And then maybe she might have a chance. She still might not, because at that point people might just say screw her, but I don't know. This is like watching Law and Order happen. I mean, like I've seen, this is, for lack of a better phrase, this is better writing than anything happening on Law and Order right now. So, but what do you guys think? Let us know what you guys think of this interview. We got the link to the full video down in the description of this video. Let us know your thoughts. Do you think that she is beyond redemption at this point? Do you think there's even a chance whatsoever? Let us know how you're feeling. You can also let us know on Twitter. All of our Twitter information is down in the description of this video. And for Bogz and Soul, my name is Mike. We'll see you guys again real soon here on Off the Wall. Bye.